start feeling like you don't feel what you're experiencing. You're not enjoying what you should be enjoying. I withdrew from my friends big
Me
time.
too.
I didn't want to see people. Nick, I had a girlfriend die from breast cancer and I didn't know she was sick.
Are you going through life blind? This is Eyes Wide Open with Nick Thompson. On this podcast, we share knowledge and stories that build human connection while elevating stigmatized societal issues such as mental health, holistic wellness, culture, free speech, and more, all to ensure we show up in the world with our eyes wide open. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Eyes Wide Open. We have a very special guest today. Our guest is Michelle Niemeyer. Michelle is a former lawyer turned certified health life coach and a public speaker that's dedicated to helping people overcome burnout by integrating knowledge from her 10-year personal journey into holistic wellness, self-discovery, personal development, and she founded Niemeyer Wellness and created the Art of Bending Time framework to help people find balance, joy, and fulfillment in their life. I'm grateful to have you here today. Thank you for joining. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for inviting me, Nick.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So before we get into all of the meat and potatoes of burnout, and I've been saying meat and potatoes a lot lately. I don't know where that came from. But, burnout's been on my mind. I've talked about it. I did a solo episode a couple weeks ago where I talked about how I knew I was feeling burnt out again. I've had a neuroscientist on recently, and I'm super excited to have you on here to talk about your experience, talk about your Art of Bending Time framework and how you're helping people kind of take back control of their life. But before we get into that, tell me, what did you want to be when you were a little kid? And how did that change over the years? And that is the whole story. So I'll just sit back and listen.
I wanted to be a writer.
What kind?
I was an avid reader as a kid. It didn't matter what kind. I kind of was like, I guess fiction. I thought I wanted to write books. And, as it comes, I am writing a book right now, but it's not fiction. So, yeah, finally, I'm writing my book.
Isn't it funny how the reason I like to ask that question is usually when people are younger, they have very aspirational things that they're trying to do. And then somehow they get sort of funneled into capitalism, I like to say. And you get stuck at a job, which can often lead to burnout. But it's cool to hear that yours is coming full circle.
Yeah.
That's exciting. So you became, you were an attorney. What type of attorney were you, and how did you decide that you wanted to make that shift? What age was it, and what were the reasons?
Yeah, my decision on the shift was sort of a long one. I was an insurance coverage lawyer, and I started out working at a firm in DC where I worked in cases all over the country. And they were, ironically, primarily environmental related insurance coverage cases. So now I'm looking at things going on right now and I'm going, oh my God, we're getting rid of all these environmental regulations. And the stuff that was getting cleaned up in the 90s when I started on this is now going to be happening again. And it scares me. But anyway, to go away from that, I did that for 5 years. And then I moved to Miami. And I worked for a year in just like a general kind of firm. And then I went to another insurance firm, but that time I went to the policyholder side. And I worked in, big construction insurance cases, and mostly for the last about 10 years, I exclusively represented yacht owners.
Oh, wow.
In cases against insurance companies that didn't pay if their boat sank in a hurricane or it had a fire or it had something like that go wrong. And so I did that for about 10 years. But there was a point, I would say.
And you were enjoying it, right? Or no?
Yeah, I was okay. So I loved it when I worked in the national practice. That was awesome. I realized many years later what I really liked was traveling a lot, eating great meals, and staying in nice hotels. And working with a group of people, which in that time frame, that work involved working with a group of people. Today, the lawyers who do what I did then are mostly doing the same work I did on Zoom calls and on their computer screens. So where we got sent to a document depository and looked at documents for a week, and there were 20 of us and we were all hanging out together and it was really fun. Now they're doing it on their computer screens.
Wow.
So it's kind of
Isn't that
sad
crazy?
because the part I got to do that kind of like took the boring part of the job and made it fun, now it's just boring. You know? And then there's, you know, as you progress up the ladder, so to speak, in a legal career, then you're handling the cases, you're calling the strategy, you're drafting the high level stuff when you're in a firm. And then I left in 2003 and started my own practice. And there were, for quite a while, I had a paralegal, but I never had it. I never grew the practice because I had hit a point then where I'd left a work situation that I really wasn't happy in. And I don't know if you've ever had a boss like this where you're like, this person is so toxic and this environment is so bad that I don't know if I hate what I do or if I just can't stand working in this environment. And so I left that environment and started my own thing. And when I did that, I was like, I don't want to grow this and then not want to be a lawyer because I didn't want to like have people dependent on me for their livelihood. And then I'm like stuck in it.
I'm over.
Right?
Yeah, you're stuck in
because I
it.
would have been the person who stayed stuck because I would have felt bad if I fired people or whatever. So I did not grow ever. I kept it solo, which was feasible in the kind of work I was doing. But it also can be really hard because everything's on you.
Yeah.
And even if you have a paralegal, which I did for part of the time, or you have other staff, you don't necessarily, you know, you're still calling the shots. You're still kind of the responsible party. You can't walk away and let them do everything.
Exactly.
And so that gets difficult. So that happened. And in about 2014, I ran for public office. And that was really a result of, I was a very, very involved volunteer in some local stuff. It started as, why don't I join the Chamber of Commerce to meet people and help my business grow? And that turned into being asked to be on committees, and it just got more and more involved, right? So what you're seeing here, this is the pathway to burnout, okay? I leave a law firm where I had support staff, way more because I was in a bigger environment. I start my own practice. I have a bare bones staff. I start doing volunteer work in the community, which isn't just showing up once a month. It turns into I'm on the board and then I'm appointed to a local committee for something. And, you know, and meanwhile, I'm starting to really like the stuff I'm doing in the public realm. So I was like, maybe if I get elected, it's a part-time job here in Miami.
What did you run for?
I ran for a city commission seat in the city of Miami.
Okay.
And, you know, so I figured if I do that, you know, then I can do that and then ease my way out of practicing law. Right. And I lost. And it was devastating personally. It was devastating from a perspective of, and this is where like the knife in your heart kind of thing. And to me, this was my most burned out period. And I think this is why. I really gave that my all. I was still working in my law practice too, but I wasn't able to do much. So I wasn't making much money for like an entire year. And then I came out of that period and I had people who had encouraged me to run, not supported me in the run because the person I ran against was threatening their businesses and this sort of thing.
Jeez.
And then who came right back to me after the election was over and wanted me to do things for them again. Like, and it was like, I got a letter in the mail that wasn't signed that said, you need to help our neighborhood. And it was 2 weeks after the election. And it was because the person who I ran against had made promises and then wasn't returning their phone calls.
Go figure.
Right?
Go figure.
So anyway, but that led to me kind of having this point where I was just like, wow, what did I do? Right? I'm gutted financially. I've worked my butt off. I mean, I've worked like early in the morning to late at night, pretty much every day, whether it was fundraising or it was in my law practice or it was in these volunteer things. And then I hit this point and I've got people literally asking for things from me who've been overtly unkind to me in some circumstances. And I'm like, whoa, and what am I doing? right? And I got really depressed and really upset, and I got really like resentful and angry, and didn't,
Yep.
I really was just kind of like, I hate my world, right?
Yeah.
I don't like the people in it. I don't like what I'm doing. If I could have just like, ditched everything and gone hiking in Alaska, I would have, gladly hung out with bears. It
Hmm.
was like,
It's peaceful. It's more peaceful.
yeah, right.
You know what?
So
Oh, I wanted
anyway,
to, I want to ask you a follow up if you don't mind before we keep going.
absolutely.
So when you were taking on all of these things, like I'm guilty of this, and I think
Yeah,
this isn't going to take much time. I'd enjoy this. I'd enjoy this. And then all of a sudden the things you enjoy, you don't enjoy anymore. They become another thing on your to-do list. Like
right.
when you were going through all of this, I'm going to run for office. I'm going to, invest my money in it, all of this stuff, and have your practice. And you had this plan. Like, were you noticing any of these symptoms? Like, was burnout even on your radar, or were you just thinking, oh, I'm tired, I'm doing a lot? And
Not during it. Like
okay.
for me, it was, and this is where I found this has happened a few times where there's been times where I got kind of burned out. A lot of times it's not in the throes of the really hard work, because you're just pushing through then,
Yeah.
right? It's when you have a second to rest
Mm.
and then you just crash. Because, you think about it, it's kind of like, I know that you're into holistic health. I've noticed this with health too. If you put too much stress on yourself for a long time, it's almost like when you allow yourself to have this mental break for a little while, like you think, okay, now I can relax.
Yeah.
That's when you get the cold,
Yeah.
right? Or whatever.
That's
It's like then
100%
all of a sudden
accurate.
your immune system's shut down. And that's when you get sick. And I think it's kind of the same with burnout. Like you're going along like you're in Groundhog Day.
I
Sometimes it's
literally
just
say
because
that
you're,
every morning when I wake up. I'm like, it's Groundhog Day again. I say
yeah,
that out loud.
and that sucks,
Yeah.
right? Like because you start feeling like you don't feel what you're experiencing, you're not enjoying what you should be enjoying. You're I withdrew from my friends big
Me
time.
too.
I didn't want to see people. Nick, I had a girlfriend die from breast cancer and I didn't know she was sick. And it was
Oh my
because she had called
gosh.
me like 3 times and I'd assumed that
You
she was
didn't have the
calling to invite, and
bandwidth.
she always had these parties at her house and it wasn't always people I wanted to hang out with. And I just like, I didn't return her calls. I mean, normally I would have at least returned her call. And then I went to a party about 8, 10 months later at somebody's house. And I said, hey, I'm surprised Mary Jo isn't here. And she says, Michelle, Mary Jo's dead. I didn't know.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like, it
You were
was one of
going
these
through the
things.
motions and not
and
aware of
and
what
she
was
and her husband
happening.
had been couple friends with me and my husband, and we'd gotten divorced, so there was a little bit of that where there wasn't like some of those people just they disappear on you.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't think anything of it, and that happened. But it was like, what the F, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's you really don't think about like how these things can happen, right?
Yeah.
You lose touch with people, you lose touch with what you enjoy doing
You
and what you
know,
love.
that's what I think. You mentioned this before we were recording. You're like the lobster in the pot or the frog in the
Mm-hmm.
boiling water. And I think in my experience, and I started feeling a little bit better. Now I'm starting to feel burnt out again. But like, I feel like it happens to you so quick and you don't realize like, oh, I'll get to that call later. I'll get to that text message later. I'm going to skip this get together. I'm going to skip this. And like, I got to the point and I'm getting there again. I'm like trying really hard to balance, but like, I don't want anyone to look at me. Like, I can't have the pressure of someone trying to make eye contact with me or talk to me at the dog park. Like, just leave me the F alone, because like I don't
Wow.
have the capacity to have a conversation. And I feel bad because like I tell my girlfriend, we've only been dating for like 8 months now, but I tell her, especially during the week, and it's hard, and I'm trying to like do stuff during the week after work, especially while it's
Mm-hmm.
summer in Chicago. But it's just like I don't have the bandwidth to have a conversation. So like I'll watch a movie, which I don't have the bandwidth to watch.
Oh
Like
God.
it gets like that because
Yeah.
you go and you don't give your brain. And by the way, there's neuroscience behind this. It's not just an emotional feeling but what's interesting is I noticed when you were talking about how that kind of built up for you is that I'm the same way. I take on. I don't think it's a big deal. I think I'm going to like it. And then before you know it, you're not in charge of your days anymore.
Right. And this is where, and it sounds to me like what you're describing to me, you're also probably not as productive as you used to be because you're not doing this stuff, right?
No.
You're just, you get into that place and you don't get stuff done.
And then
And
at work,
so,
when you just get more added to your plate all the time, it's just like,
right. So what I did ultimately was I went through a period I was quite burned out.
now, do you
And I
mind me
knew,
asking you, when you were in this period of being burnt out, when was it? Because burnout has
okay,
come up in the last few years as kind of like an
yes.
acceptable term. I didn't know what it was until 2019. And I had a coworker from Sweden say that's like a clinical doctor diagnosis here. Like
Yeah,
they
it's a
scan
World
your
Health.
brain. Yeah.
It's interesting because it's actually not in the DSM, but it is a World Health Organization diagnostic.
Yeah.
Um, but I knew, did I use the word burnout? I don't remember if I used the word burnout, but where it got really bad, it sort of happened in stages. I knew that I was having problems getting stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not think of that as burnout. It was around the time my friend Mary Jo died. It was around, it was actually after this election, but not that long after it. Um, and I started realizing that I couldn't focus on working more than like an hour or two a day. And I was like,
Mm.
I had a conversation with a friend who was like, I don't understand. You made it through law school. Like, you can't make it through law school if you can't focus. Like, what's wrong? And try to just work for an hour. I'm like, but I can't,
Yeah.
and I would lose focus all the time. And at first I thought it was a time management issue or it was a organizational
Me
issue.
too.
And so ironically, like when I first decided to do a program and I was like, how do I reach the people who were like me before I got so far gone, it was hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
And I realized it was around that time frame when what I really thought I needed was time management help. So the reason it's the art of bending time is because the person who's me before I got sick from it had a time management problem.
Mm. But
And
how would you
I mean,
define your time management problem? Because I went through this too, like 6 months ago. I documented everything I did all day for 3 days in a row.
okay,
If it was 15 minutes or more, it went in this document. And what I found is I thought I was taking time to recharge, and it would be a 15, 20-minute walk in the afternoon, and I would take my dog. And then when I was like paying attention to what I was doing, I was checking email or I was editing a podcast clip on my
right.
phone. And it's like I'm thinking to myself, I'm taking a little break from work. I'm walking the dog. I'm not. I'm just
And
doing
what you
other
were
work.
really doing was busy work that wasn't moving the ball forward.
Yes, exactly.
So what I realized, like I said, I thought it was a time management problem, and then I bought a time management course, and it was helpful in some ways. It told you to delegate things and whatever. It told me to document my time. I'm like, I'm a lawyer. I document my time every
Yeah.
6 minutes,
You
right?
get paid based on your
But
time.
I don't get paid if I don't document it. But at the same time, what I learned was that a lot of the things that got me healthier, and at that point, I had learned a long time before that I felt better and I did better if I was exercising
Yep.
and if I ate better. That, definitely that level of basic health made a difference for me. And not just in what I weighed, but also
Yeah.
in how I felt mentally, how I felt physically, and how I could focus. And so I did a lot to try to reduce stress, and I was starting to exercise. And I had an assistant at the time who was a Beachbody coach,
Mm.
and I've never seen anything like it. I decided to lose some weight. I had watched her lose 40 pounds, and then I had watched her, I'm not joking, run 2 full marathons 2 weeks apart.
Whoa.
And when she ran the second one, she was about maybe 28, 29 when this is going on. She ran the second one, and mile 20 went right through the neighborhood where I lived. And so I went out to cheer for her. And I'm thinking she's going to be dragging, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is like, she's literally like bouncing along like one of those Ethiopian professionals. I mean, I'm just like, whoa, what is going on here? And I asked her about it, and she's like, oh, I think it's because I'm cross training with the Beachbody programs, and I used to get hurt, and now I'm not getting hurt. And so I decided to do one of those programs,
Mm-hmm.
and I signed up for coaching for the discount. And that opened my world up to personal development, which I'd never had any exposure to. So I started, I did that. I was doing some personal development. I lost 35 pounds. I was in
Good for
great shape. I
you.
felt good. Everything was like, it felt like everything's getting better, right? I'm more focused at work. I'm just like loving life again. And then a year later, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease.
Mm.
And I think like that period, that first period of portioning my food and eating off of a list of things and doing, like, it helped because it was almost like a practice run for when I got the
Yeah.
autoimmune thing, and it had a very, very scary potential prognosis. I'm looking at this going, doctors are basically saying there's this drug, it works for 60% of the people. And if it works for you, we can stop the damage from getting worse. And as long as it stays in remission, you can expect to live a normal lifespan. I'm like,
Wow. Do you
great,
mind
okay.
asking what was it?
It's called PBC,
Okay.
primary biliary cholangitis. It attacks the microscopic bile ducts in your liver. And it causes cholesterol to get stuck in your bile ducts. And the drug that works is actually kind of, I described it as like it's like Drano for your bile ducts
Oh
to get
my
the
gosh.
cholesterol out of there.
Uh-huh.
And that will stop the bile from being backed up and like basically eating up your liver, because
Oh
bile is
my
very
goodness.
caustic. So anyway, it worked, but I knew that the autoimmune process part of it isn't related to that. That's just treating a symptom, right?
Right.
So I got deep into holistic health. I got a certification as a health coach at a nutritional health coaching school to learn about how do I address this nutritionally.
Mm.
And, I did an
Had you
elimination
been
diet.
had you been into holistic health at this time, or was this just something you sort of discovered through your autoimmune?
No, it wasn't. It was something I'd been exposed to in the past. I,
Okay.
I had met someone here in Miami who was a potential client. His name is Timothy Brantley, and he wrote a book called The Cure about treating cancer with nutrition.
Mm-hmm. I'm familiar with the book.
And my grandmother's cousin got stage 4 pancreatic cancer and left UMass, where or Mass General, he was being treated there. They had kind of sent him away to die. And I sent him that book, and then he found out about an acupuncturist who was doing great things with acupuncture and kind of the same kind of diet. And he got rid of stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Wow.
And he just died last year at 93 years old of old age.
Yeah.
He was working on his farm the day before he died. And, he was 78 when this happened. So it was like for a long time, he was still healthy. And, so I'd seen that. I knew that worked. And so it wasn't like I was completely blind to that stuff. I was fully open to that. And when I had this serious thing, I'm like, help me. So, I learned, I did raw foods for a while, and then I did this elimination diet, and I have managed to reverse. They can measure the damage caused by the disease. And when I was diagnosed, my scan that measures this was like an 8.2. It was called stage 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's now stage 0.
Wow.
So, and that's over years, obviously. But
Lots
it's
of
been
work, I'm
stage 0
sure.
for like 3 years now.
Wow. That's amazing.
And that took time over time, but I changed how I was eating. They say all your cells turn over in 7 years, right?
Yep.
So, about 7 years into it, I was stage 0.
Wow. That's amazing. That is incredible to hear. Congratulations. I don't know if that's
Well,
the right
thanks.
word, but
But it was after I started doing all these things, I kind of woke up one day and said, wow, I'm enjoying life again. and I'm liking what I'm doing professionally. I was enjoying law again. Like I was really getting into it. And I was, literally feeling physically better than I had since I was in my 20s. And I was like, what did I do? I did these things. And that was when I started thinking, like, if I were to do something to help people avoid this, what would it be? Because it was also right around the time, it was like I did the health coaching course in 2017.
Yeah.
And it was around that time, it was 2016, they did this big study on lawyers and discovered that they have really high levels of suicide and alcoholism
God,
and
I
drug
didn't know
abuse
that.
and, it goes on and on, depression. And so I did some courses for lawyers, and then I decided to do something broader for more people, because as much as I hate to say this, the law profession is finally awake to this, but they're
Do they
not.
care? That's the thing.
The problem is it runs. It's like, here's the profit motive, and
Yeah.
here's the lifestyle.
Well, this is what I say about all the corporations that are like, we care about your mental health. We do that. It's like, there's things you could do that actually prove that out. And it's so much lip service, because at the end of the day, like everyone's replaceable in corporate.
Well, and here's the thing, though, they're not. But we make ourselves replaceable.
From
So
the
this
point of
is
view
this
of a
is
corporation.
okay. So
Yeah.
this is a big part of what I teach, and in my opinion, from the corporation's view, they shouldn't be seeing it that way, because
I agree completely.
So let's say the concept of the art of bending time is it has some really basic stuff first. Okay, so there's like the health stuff. That's low hanging fruit. That's the first thing, it's one of the first things you want to do. The first thing I do with people is what I call a clarity exercise. And what we're looking for is getting into those things that light you up and give you joy. And you may have to go back to childhood to remember some things. Like I actually do this, it's kind of like a guided meditation with people, where you remember moments when you felt really proud, or when you were really excited about something, or you had this really high level of anticipation, or that kind of thing. And then you think about what was going on then. What was it you were so excited about? What was it that you were so proud of? Why were you so happy? Were you with other people? Was it because you'd created something? Was it because you had seen something that was incredibly beautiful or breathtaking or whatever? Was it that you connected with animals? Whatever it was for you. And what I've realized is that a lot of times as we go through our educational system, or as we grow up and become adults, right, we lose that. And we don't have to. So
that's kind of the point of my first question that I asked you, what you wanted to be when you were a kid, is
right.
like,
So
you get conditioned almost.
Right. And so when you lose that, and you lose that spark, and a lot of us went into jobs where we thought we'd get those things. I became a lawyer because an English teacher told me that to be a great lawyer, you had to be a good writer. And I was a really good writer, so I would be a good lawyer. Right.
Yeah.
And I was an excellent lawyer, but I wasn't getting to write fiction. I wasn't getting to write anything interesting. I wasn't getting to interact with people all that much, because it's a very isolating profession. People don't realize that.
Yeah.
And so, but what I realized is if you can get sparks of those things, like I also loved art as a kid. And then I was like, when you're an A student, they tell you don't have time, right?
Yeah.
You're college bound. So you should take a language, and to take the language, you need to give up music, or you need to give up art, or whatever the thing is. And so I had given up these pieces of me to fit into the box that our society says the smart kids do, right? This is what you're supposed to do. And because I did that, I'd lost the stuff that I really loved. I realized by the time I got into law, I was like shaving off pieces of me all along. And it was this stuff that lit me up and made me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I started doing was I started literally, like I'd take an art class here and there. Or I started racing sailboats again. I hadn't done that after I got married
Oh,
because my
wow.
ex hated sailboats. And, there were different things I did that were like, I started doing things that I knew would light me up. And I made a point of getting them in my life, whether it was in work or outside of work. And once you do that and you reignite that ability to have that feeling again, it's hard to get burned out. But you got to actively do it. You proactively chase the sparks, like make them happen. Find ways to put yourself in a position where you get that.
Exactly.
In whatever way that is for you.
It's almost like you have to find the ways to fill your cup so that it doesn't empty for other people or for your job or for whatever, or for your, people that take and don't give.
Exactly.
And,
exactly. And then what you're going to do is I have a character I call Time Suck Ninja. My goal for everybody is that they become a time suck ninja through this process. And we look at what I call internal and external time sucks. So the internal ones are the things like going to your email, wasting your time in your email box, or in your, scrolling your phone, or, doing things that aren't really that productive. But you're doing it because you're either self-soothing, you're bored, or you're procrastinating on something because it's hard and you don't want to do it. Right?
Yep.
And then the external stuff is like, it could be a lot of things. It could be a boss who comes and drops stuff on your desk at a certain time and it makes it impossible for you to do your job.
That is my life.
And that's often a problem for a lot of people.
Yep.
And there are ways that you can handle that without career suicide, but you have to be tactful about it, right? So you want to make sure, you need to show them that you're doing important things and that you really want to help them. But right now, this is, and in law firms, there's a hierarchy often where there's, senior partners and mid-level partners and junior partners and associates. And, a lot of times it's like the junior and the mid-level partners who are coming around throwing junk on your desk at 5 o'clock on Friday. And a lot of times, if you just keep a list of what you're working on, I did this. It was like literally like my shield. I had a notepad on my desk. I had a list of everybody that I was doing projects for. Here's the person, here's the project, this is when it's due. And I'd have a list of all the stuff that was open that I was working on. And then if somebody came in and said, hey, I need you to do this by Monday or whatever, I'd say, I would love to do that. I'm really not sure how I can fit that in, though. This is what I'm working on. These are the people I'm doing it for. I don't really know what's the most important thing. Yeah. Can you help me out and talk to those people?
Yeah, I mean, that seems so simple, but it is so hard. It's
a very hard thing to do, especially if you're a people pleaser, and especially if you are worried. I mean, sometimes people are worried they'll lose their job because they're not doing the work. But the fact is that if the place is chronically understaffed and the top management doesn't know it, they could probably make more money if they hired more people and they didn't have everybody burned out.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
Right?
That's what I think is the missing piece. And I've done a little bit of like, I've been a chief marketing officer for software. I've been a VP. I'm a director, and I manage people, and I see it from myself, my own experience, but I see it in them too. And I see it in people that I know and all of this stuff. And I think there's like especially over the last several years, there's just been like a resource shortage, and people are just doing so many jobs that the to-do list never gets done. It sometimes gets done for that day, but like,
and that's okay. That's okay. Right. We're always going to have a bunch of stuff.
But it's the prioritization was what I was getting.
It's about prioritizing.
Because when everything's a priority, nothing's a priority.
The 80-20 rule, where 20% of the work is going to get you 80% of the results. And when you learn more and you get to know better and that's part of, like I said, when I had that conversation with people, I never had anybody get upset with me about it.
Yeah.
because I'd say to them, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to put you in a position where I can't get it done,
Yeah.
or where this other thing isn't getting done. So help me out here.
Yeah.
And, it was never like, nah, I'm not going to do the work for you. But I was always careful about how I wasn't even saying I won't work over the weekend. I was saying, I'm not sure I can do that.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that there are other kinds of things that intrude on your time that I will call external time sucks, which can be monumental in how they impact you. And some of it's really bizarre stuff, like you have a window in your office and there's light shining in your eyes for 2 hours every afternoon. And that's, if it's not blinding you to where you can't see well, it's irritating you and it's taking you away from being truly focused.
Mm-hmm.
Or there could be noise, or there could be, I had
Like
one office that was across from the
jackhammer,
kitchen.
for example.
Yeah, like a jackhammer. Exactly. And so, that kind of thing can take you out of the flow state. And when you're in the flow state, you'll get more done. Whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah. What is the flow state? I know what the flow state is, but I want to ask you, since you brought it up, like, how do people get into a flow state?
I mean, some people call it being in the zone or whatever.
Yeah.
It's that place that you can find yourself where you're doing something and you're so engrossed in it that you lose track of time. You're only working on that. You're focused on it. You tend to be more accurate, faster, all the rest, because you're only focused on that. And if you can train yourself to get into that state, you can get a heck of a lot more work done.
Yeah.
Than if you're trying to multitask. They say that one interruption takes away like 15 minutes of flow state.
And by the way, our brains are designed through years and centuries probably of science and evolution that shows we're supposed to spend more time doing things. It is not healthy for us to have such short attention spans and have all these notifications popping up and all these screens and all of this stuff, and that the text messages, the Slack chats, the emails, the personal emails, the group chats, the WhatsApps, the DMs on several social medias. It's not good.
Well, and let me say, I'm glad you're bringing all of those things up, because the fact is that one of the things I tell everybody to do, first thing, again, low-hanging fruit, get rid of the notifications. All of them.
I shut my Instagram ones off, which is where my following is.
I don't see email unless I open my email app. I don't see texts unless I've got my phone in my hand, because I keep it away from me. Mm-hmm. I keep it on silent when I'm not using it.
Yep.
And, if you take away the notifications, you can focus on other things.
Yep.
But if you've got that thing there where it's like boom, boom, and there's always that banner coming up, or there's a ding, or even if it's in the other room and you're hearing it ding, it's setting off that, I got to check. I wonder who that is.
And
maybe that's the thing I was expecting. And it takes you away from what you're focused on, right? But you can schedule time to bang out the email responses, for instance, and you can get it done way faster. And you can be more efficient with it. Like what I do when I get rid of emails, and I say this, like, how many emails do you really have to respond to? Like 95% of them now you have to get rid of.
Yeah.
So what I generally do is I sort it to who it's from. And they're whole massive categories. I just delete them all. Like, I don't even look at them. And then there are other ones that I look at it and I'm like, okay, this needs a response. This one doesn't. But you can do your email very efficiently if you choose to, or you can get a VA and do it that way.
Yeah.
So either way, but emails and texts. And I mean, now we've got like 20 different places to look, which makes it even worse.
Yeah.
So like if you're running an organization, one thing that would probably be really helpful for everybody is to say, listen, nobody does any texting, emails, anything else, project communications are in Slack, period. Or whatever, like pick a platform.
Pick your channel. Yeah.
Pick a platform and use it, and don't expect people to look in 5 different places, because
Well, that
Of course, things get lost.
of course they get lost. And I don't think people, myself included, I'm very conscious of it now. I don't think that people understand the brain chemistry of what's going on with this stuff, because it isn't
Yeah.
just, there's like actual, and I had recently on a neuroscientist who talked about the damage of notifications. And we even talked about like porn and the notifications and the TikToks and all of these things that we're interacting with on the screen, and it's shrinking our brains. They're not
Yeah.
functioning as well. When you get a notification, you get a dopamine hit and you're not doing anything for it. And the
Right.
dopamine, for those of you who maybe don't know, that's your reward chemical in your brain for doing something hard. So when it's as simple as looking at your phone, you're getting that release. It's going to become very difficult for you to sit down and write something, or sit down and, litigate something, or
Or
what.
make 20 phone calls, or
Yeah.
yeah, whatever it is. And so that's one thing. So you do those things, and then I think mindset is a really important aspect of things too. You know, having an optimistic view versus pessimistic, making the assumption that if somebody has done something, that their intention was probably good, and not dwelling on, oh, that person said this thing and it hurt my feelings or whatever, right? And I used to be the person who took things very
Yeah.
personally. I learned not to be that way, and it took years for me to learn that.
Yeah.
But when you're the person who takes things personally like that, it can really, you ruminate on it, and that can really make things hard. And
Yeah.
it is a huge waste of time and bandwidth.
You
Huge,
totally.
massive waste of time.
And I have found so much peace probably over the last 10 years from one experience with a coworker who everyone was annoyed by. And
Mm-hmm.
this person could be annoying. I will agree with that. But
Mm-hmm.
I realized like she wasn't trying to be annoying. She was
Right.
actually like a well-intentioned person. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that would get lost in translation. And so I realized at that point that if I can judge someone based on their intentions and not their actions, and that doesn't mean I have to accept or be best friends with them, like you still keep your boundaries. But if you can judge people based on their intentions, you are
Yeah.
freeing yourself from so much stuff. And I'm still learning the subtle art of not giving an F, which is what you're kind of talking about. Like, I don't
Yeah,
care
sort
what.
of, but it's yes and no, but I think it really is important to be kind to other people and to make an effort to not be the one who comes across like you're mean to somebody because you just were short with them.
Yeah.
If you can be kind and you can be gracious and you can compliment people when they do a good job and make them feel like they're an important part of the team and give them real responsibility. And this is another piece of bending time. One of the biggest problems a lot of people have is hyper independence.
Mm-hmm.
It's thinking that they can do it better than anybody else and nobody else should be doing the thing. Well, if you're building a team and you think you're the only one who can do it, and you're paying, why are you paying staff at all, first of all? And if you're paying staff and you're not allowing them to grow and get good at what they do, what are you doing? Right?
Dictating.
Because you're
Yeah.
wasting your money, you're wasting your time, and you're creating a really crappy environment for everybody who works with you.
Yeah.
Because nobody feels good if they've been hired to do something and then they're being micromanaged,
Mm-hmm.
or they're not getting to do the good part of the work. They only get the crummy part of it that their boss doesn't want to handle.
Yeah.
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 So, and when you get to that point where you have staff who you've trained or you have coworkers who are independent, standalone professionals who can do their job, then you can go on vacation and not worry about that everything's going to fall apart when you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And you can count on the fact that you've got 3 people who all know how to do something. And so if one of them gets sick or if one of them isn't there, you've always got somebody who can pick up the slack.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen without intention.
That's very well said.
And that's part of making time work best for you too, because you're wasting your time if you're doing somebody's job who ought to be doing their own job.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm guilty of sometimes doing other stuff because I can just do it quicker and easier. But that's not the right way to do things all the time. So,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, it's because you're not teaching them.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you keep taking it, you take it from them and you don't teach somebody how to do the thing, then you're never going to be able to hand it off and trust that it's going to get done.
Exactly.
And there's always going to be a learning curve. You're going to have to teach somebody at some point.
Exactly.
So, and then having a plan. And this is where I get into something I called a SWOT analysis.
This is what I was going to just ask you about.
Yeah. So a ninja has to have a sword, right? Maybe they don't. Somebody told me they have daggers, not swords, but I'm like, I'm sorry, dagger doesn't fit my acronym. So
yeah, it
it's
depends
going
on
to
the
be a
ninja.
sword. Might not be historically accurate, but it's going to be a sword. What I have people do when I work with them is I have them choose 3 really big goals. And generally I have them choose a personal goal and a work goal and then whatever other thing interests them. If I work with a team in a business, we do team goals and we do it as a team. And it can be used that way too. But let's look at the individual role. So let's say you have a goal to become a C-suite executive in your business and you're at a certain level. We know where you are. The S is for strengths. So the S is going to be, what are the things that I already have? Well, maybe I'm only one level below being in the C-suite, or maybe I have a degree from the right kind of school and I have some contacts and people are rooting for me. Whatever those things are, I've done this great project and it's really impressed people and I want to capitalize on that. Whatever those things are, that those assets we'll call strengths. Then there are, it's labeled as weaknesses, but really what's the gap? What is it that you have to get or achieve or, grow into to be able to have that role?
Mm-hmm.
The O is for opportunities. That would be, what opportunities does success in this give me? If I'm going to be a C-suite executive, I'll get, what is it? A fancy company car. I'll get stock options. I'll get the ability to have more vacation. Maybe I'll have the opportunity to create this level of impact that I couldn't have in my old position, right? Like there's all kinds of, whatever your goals are and what opportunities matter to you. Because like if it's way more money, but you don't care about money, that's not, it's an opportunity, but it's not maybe the biggest draw for you. And then you want, what are the risks? What's the opportunity cost?
And that's the R, right?
Right.
The R.
So are you going to have to give up time with your family and your kids are a certain age and you're their baseball coach? Or are you maybe not going to be able to travel as much as you wanted, or whatever those opportunity costs are, or what's it going to cost you to get there? Are you going to have to get a degree and spend time going to school? Are you going to have to move to another city? Whatever. And again, like I said, all these things are very individual.
Mm-hmm.
So you go through and you figure those things out. And then when we get done with that and we've really fleshed it out, I say, okay, now 1 to 10, don't think about it. How much do you want it? And people, some of them, it's something they really want. They're psyched.
Yeah.
It's cool. You'd be surprised how many don't say anything for a minute. And then they go, I don't know, maybe like an 8, maybe a 5.
Yeah.
And the thing that I learned from this, and it was not my intention going into it, it's something that I learned working with people, was how many people are carrying around a goal that they don't really care about. And they're investing money in it, and they're investing time in it. They're joining clubs because of it, or they're giving up time with their family on the weekend, or they're spending a ton of money on whatever the cost is of going to the school or getting the license or whatever. And it's because it was something they thought they had to have, that they don't need it now, or they were 12 years old and always dreamed of this, and now they're 45 and it's not them anymore,
Yeah.
but they've always had in the back of their head, I always wanted to be a pilot, whatever it is, right? And those things can really weigh on us. I mean, for women, for a lot of us, it's, let's face it, I want to lose 20 pounds, right? Everybody wants to lose that extra weight. And then they join the gym in January and they
Are
lose
gone
5 or
by
10 pounds.
February.
And they've doubled, and they need to lose 20 pounds. Like after they lost 10, they gain it all back by March.
Yeah.
And, and they've been doing this in cycles since they were teenagers.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, that's the case for a lot of people. Now they're doing Ozempic and they're doing the same thing.
I don't even want to get into
And,
that. But, yeah.
it works for a lot of people, but, as long as they're doing the right things.
Exactly.
And it's a lot to do. And frankly, it isn't so different from losing the weight naturally.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. But that's it's funny you say that whole thing, because I had this moment several years ago, and I've been in software marketing for a long time. I've been in marketing most of my career, and I like marketing, but I lost track a little bit because I had this goal. I was going to be a CMO and a chief marketing officer. And I got that in an interim role at a software company that I really liked working at, great product. And when I got it, I was like, oh, I've been working towards this. And then they wanted me to like go for the full role and not lose the interim. And I just remember I had this moment where I was like, I don't want this
now, what
anymore.
was it about it that was different? I mean, I'm assuming, was there something that like you couldn't do the fun part anymore because now you were an executive?
That was a lot of it. And I like writing. I'm a good writer. I like being creative. And also through the years, marketing changed. It's not creative anymore like it used to be. It's data's come for marketing. Like you don't get to have the same level of creativity that you used to have.
Right.
And that was one of the things that really attracted me to it. And it was, to your point, I got up there, I'm like, I don't want to be in meetings all day. And I'm an introvert too, like prone to burnout introvert. I don't want to be in meetings all day. I wanted to do stuff. I like the strategy stuff, but I like to do some of the stuff too. And I just remember I was sitting in there and it'd be like 6-7 hours a day of meetings. And then I'm like, I don't feel fulfilled out of any of this. And so I just remember having this moment. I was like, I've been chasing this forever. I'm like, am I ever going to want this? And I was young. I was like 34. I shouldn't have been there. I also had imposter syndrome. So, that's part of it. But I was I don't know if I'm ready for this or if I want this even.
It's funny. I dated somebody in law school and lived with his family when I studied for the bar. They were lovely people. And his dad worked for the census department, and he did something related to cartography, maps of, for census. And he was probably in his early 50s at that point. And they pushed and pushed and pushed him to everybody wanted him to be the manager. And he was like, I don't want to be the manager. And to his credit, because I think most people would take the management job, right? They take the promotion because it's what's expected of you. You're supposed to move up the ladder and you're supposed to, and of course a raise would come with it, which is nice. And, but he's like, if I did that, I'd have to manage people, which I don't want to do. And I wouldn't get to do the cool part anymore, which is he loved his maps. He was really into that.
Yeah.
And so he just refused to make that change. And good for him, because he wasn't burned out. He was loving what he was doing still in his 50s. And it was, he probably wouldn't have been if he'd been in charge of a team of 20 people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens.
So, sometimes it depends on who you are. Not everybody has and it's not about it's better or it's worse. It's that who are you as a person? What lights you up? What makes you happy? Not everybody wants to be the leader.
Yeah.
Leadership is such a big buzzword now, and everybody's supposed to be a leader, and you can even be a leader of yourself, right? Well, great. Like you can be a leader of yourself, and part of being a leader of yourself is knowing what matters for you.
Yeah.
So, this going through this analysis of knowing what matters, what we do then is we take that a step further and we build a team around the goal. So one of the things that I find happens for a lot of people is if they don't know about something, they get online or they look for a company that they can buy a course from or whatever. But if you just know somebody who's done it, they're going to tell you what they've learned, what they did wrong, how should you've done it. And it can shortcut and a lot of times make it faster and cheaper, right?
Yep.
To get it done. And you'll have people who are backing you up. So I recommend that people then, I'm big on breaking down the walls of the quote unquote work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of work-life balance. I think it's destructive. And so, we back away from having close relationships at work now in a lot of ways because there's this, I'm supposed to go home and be at home when I'm at home and I'm supposed to be at work when I'm at work. What about having close friends at work that you socialize with and their spouses and each other's families?
Community.
And that's fun, right?
Yeah.
And that causes people to want to stay in your organization and they work as a team. And, so when you find you're in that place where you're like, okay, I need to learn about something. Well, how about you ask, somebody at work if they know anybody who's done that? And it's about a personal goal. The next thing you know, you've made friends with somebody at work,
mm-hmm.
more than just a task relationship. Now you've met their uncle or something, right?
Yeah.
Because they knew somebody and it's somebody they introduced you to. And as you deepen those relationships, you expand your reach and your ability to learn and expedite things and make friends. And
especially in a remote setting that so many people in corporate are now.
Yeah. And this connects you in a way that people remember you then.
Mm-hmm.
I worry for people who work remote because you're forgotten very easily if you're not kind of in the mothership where the people who matter see you.
Yeah.
Like it or not, and that can be hard. So anyway, that's kind of the concept of the art of bending time is about getting more out of the time through being more effective and then through having a lot more reach and using team and community and connections to get more done.
Right.
And to get further faster.
Right. I think it's the concept sounds great to me. And I think it kind of sounds like it redefines productivity a little bit, which I think culture needs in general.
Big time.
Yeah. And so I think that's great. And what you're doing and the work you're doing, and you're going to have to tell me when your book is ready too, because I'm going to want to check that out. But
my goal is end of year.
Okay. Good for you. This is very, very exciting. So I want to be respectful of time, but before we go, and again, thank you so much. Like it feels good to talk about like those feelings of burnout with someone who's experienced it and then has done something with it good, which you've done. And so I'm grateful for that because I think more people need to hear this and need to know that there's, your Art of Bending Time program and different resources out there to help people sort of find their way. Because otherwise it literally just keeps snowballing to the point where you'll probably not be able to recover. And that's science, not like it's mental, but it's also science.
And a lot of people end up, they either wash out completely and walk away, or, more likely they make themselves smaller.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
That's sad. And it's not a result that anybody wants.
Exactly. So before we head out, I like to give my guests a chance to ask me anything. So I'm going to open the floor to you if you have anything you want to ask me.
I could ask you silly questions about TV shows and stuff, but I won't, except I was really interested in the name of your podcast, Eyes Wide Open.
It's funny. So it was initially launched as Conversations with Nick Thompson, but my whole concept of the show was that I just wanted to have conversations like this with people with personal experiences or with expertise and stuff that interests me. Like I said, stream of thought, like I talk a lot about mental health, holistic wellness, cultural issues, free speech. I like to talk about the news and politics and pretty much anything related to culture and what's going on, and have people with good experiences. And then I was having a conversation with I produce my podcast myself now through my own content company, but I used to use a company, and the founder and I were chit-chatting one day, and he's like, you should just rebrand it to Eyes Wide Open. And I think I actually said something about it. And so I was like, oh my God, that's true. Because I want to help people learn more stuff, learn more about themselves, learn more about things like that burnout, things like holistic wellness, things like, I just had I have a really popular episode this week of my podcast that's blown up about the impacts of like parasites on your health with,
I saw that and I'm going to listen to that. I didn't yet. I actually in my lawyer work, I represented a guy who owned a company that had one of those parasite purge kind of like products.
You want to open your eyes. That's the one to listen to.
Well, his case was about advertising injury claims because somebody was suing him, claiming that they were using his name or their name or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But what they did, I thought was fascinating. This was long before I had my issues with health.
Yeah.
But again, it was another touch I had with that world of holistic medicine and learning about it.
I don't promote my show to people like this, but like you might want to listen to it. I will. I think you'll find it very interesting. With her name is Kim Rogers. She actually was dying, and her husband moved to the forest, and they just tried all of these holistic things to figure out what was wrong with her. And it's I get goosebumps. She's an inspiring person. She's a great person. And, So yeah, it's just like Eyes Wide Open, to sum it up, came from me wanting to go through life with my eyes wide open. And then it's also kind of like a play on the Love is Blind thing. Like,
I figured.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, as you said, you were an introvert. I was like, that is the perfect way for an introvert to date. You don't even have to see them.
It's exactly it. And most people misunderstand what an introvert is, but a lot of people don't believe me when I say that. And I was like, after I do a podcast like this and I've worked all day and then I do a podcast like this, I'm done. Like, don't look at me. Don't talk to me. Don't and I'm burnt out on top of it. It's like, leave me alone. Don't.
No, I get it. And I'm also an introvert. And again, I'm very socially adept.
Yeah.
So I'm not somebody that they're like, oh my God, you're not shy. I actually was kind of a shy kid, but no, I'm not shy. I was kind of, beaten out of that by moving twice at 12 and 16 years old. But, I do have to recover from social interaction.
Yeah, me too.
Like, a big party is my least favorite place.
Me too.
And
you will find me in the corner, not being a creep. I'm not being a creep in the corner, but I'm in the corner and I'm talking to someone about something deep.
Right.
Or I'm leaving the party soon.
You've created your small environment within the big loud room. That's exactly what I do too.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, I want to thank you so much for your time and coming on here. Where can people find you or get in touch with you if they want to work with you?
For US-based people, the easiest thing they can do is pull out their cell phones. Just do it now. It's easier that way. And text the word clarity to 33777. And I mentioned to you about that clarity exercise I have and the SWOT analysis. And I have resources to do that in a private community, which is free. And any podcast attendees are welcome to join that and just get that information so they can use it.
Outstanding. And I will put that link down in the show notes. I'll also link people to your website, your LinkedIn, your socials, all of that stuff. So awesome. You can also send that text message, or you can just check out the links in the show notes. Thanks again so much for coming on here. I know you are doing wonderful work, and I'm grateful for the work you're doing. I'm grateful for you sharing time today. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Nick. This has been great. I appreciate your time.
Thank Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Eyes Wide Open. If you enjoy the show, the best way to support us is by sharing or dropping a review. For more information and content, check out engagewithnick.com or find me on Instagram at nthompson513. Don't go through life blind. Do the work so you can show up in the world with your eyes wide open.